look, if your club keeps getting a lot of new members but keeps losing them just as fast, then this video is probably going to save you a lot of time, frustration and energy. And the reason for that is because in this video we're going to cover how to get good retention, and the good thing is that retention has mostly to do with systems, and systems are usually easy to fix. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, before I jump into my iPad and actually walk you through what good retention and bad retention looks like, I just wanted to say that I haven't been posting a lot on this channel, and it is because we have been really busy taking meetings with clubs and federations, and I'm happy to say that we have now 10 more clubs joining us in 2026 and running one program with us, which is going to be great. We're going to be helping these clubs with getting more people, making sure that they get the right type of people to their club, making sure that they can give them a good experience so that people want to continue as members, and also make sure that they have coaches and everything else in place so they can actually take care of these new people. So that's really cool. If that's something that your club would like to do also, I'm going to leave a link below here. You can go and check out our page and hear a little bit more what we do. It's free for your club and it has a lot of benefits. Now, with that said, let's get into this video. So just like I said before, what I've gone ahead and done is that I have created a diagram that shows what bad retention looks like and also what good retention looks like. And at the end of this video, I'm going to also show you what this actually means when it comes to actual numbers. So with that being said, let me jump on my iPad so you can see my screen also, and so we can walk through this together. Alright, I'm on my iPad now. So first of all, I would just like to explain what you are seeing on the image here so you get a better understanding. So what I've gone ahead and done is that I've divided the first month and then the 6 months after that. And you probably think by now, like, why are we talking about the first month if this is about retention? So a lot of clubs think that retention happens like 2 months, 3 months, or like 6 months into getting new members, which is actually wrong. Like, retention starts mattering as soon as someone steps their foot for the first time at your club. Yes, probably you can see that they leave the club after 2 or 3 months, but the issues start from the get-go, like from this first step that they took at your club. Because if people feel that they are not seen, or maybe they feel that this is not a place for them, then of course they're not going to be with you long term. For sure, they can be for you for some months, maybe throughout the summer, because they want to do something. But as soon as things get harder in their life, maybe they have like more work to do, or they have limited time, then your club is probably going to be the first one to get cut out. And we don't want that, right? And that's why I've divided into the first month and 6 months after that, because we believe that this is the best way of actually looking at retention, just seeing what needs to happen within the first months in order to get people to stay for the coming 6 months. And then if you get people to stay for that long, then chances are they're going to stick with you for the long term. So let's get started with the first month. So a lot of clubs, what they usually do is basically run small programs, and that's something that, I mean, it's good. It's better to run like a small program with beginners than not running anything, but having a small group is not really that exciting. So already from the get-go, people are feeling like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to learn this, and then we will see what this goes. They don't really feel that this is something big getting into the club because of the size of the group, which sucks, but that's actually how it is. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about is basically just like providing a solid experience to the beginners, which again seems good from outside, but you need to just go like the extra mile in order to get people to value your club and want to stay at your club. So even if you have a solid experience, you need to give much more than you think in order to get them to actually really like your sport. Now, next thing is that clubs, when they get like people, they are not really selling the sport. They're learning people how to do their sport within the first month, and then forgetting that these people are not really sold into the sport. Like, yes, they are trying it out. Maybe they just want to learn a little bit more about, let's say, football, but they're not really sold into why I should continue with football, why this sport is so good. So that's something that clubs also forget sometimes, which also actually adds up to this whole bad retention thing going on. So then next thing is basically that a lot of clubs treat beginners as normal members, and they are not. They are beginners. They should have some more attention, some more energy should go towards them, so they actually feel that they are seen and they can stay at the club. Now, the last thing I would like to talk about the first month is basically getting them from participants to members. This is also something that a lot of clubs maybe miss out a little bit on, or maybe they are too nice and they don't really chase after people and saying them, hey, like, we would really like to have you at the club, which sounds cool, and you would like people to just like sign up just with saying to them once or sending out a mail. But in reality, you really need to like tell people multiple times why it's worth signing up and what the next steps are going to be, so they can actually see themselves sticking around at the club. Now, going into the 6 months after that, Usually what clubs do is just that after a program that you have, people learn the sport and then they just get them into normal membership. That's good, but it's not really exciting for the people getting into the club. They go from being on this cool program to now just being on a regular membership. They don't really know what that means. So a lot of people actually get scared about that and end up not joining, not because they didn't like your sport, but because they didn't really know what being a member meant. Then something that I always also see is that clubs try to keep their prices affordable. They think that, you know what, we're just going to make sure that this is cheap enough so people are going to join, which actually is a good idea, but in reality that doesn't really work like that. Maybe you get a lot of people to join your club because the price was cheap, but cheap pricing can also actually backfire to you, which is what happens in most cases, because like the price is so low, people feel like, I don't need to be there every session. I mean, I'm not really that invested into this sport. And then eventually what happens is that their interest gradually fades away. But if you have like a higher price, then people are actually more committed to be at your club, do the sessions, and that way they basically, by doing the training, get more involved into your club and get more interested, and then they stick around and you have better retention. Then something that a lot of clubs don't think about either is just tracking attendance. This makes a huge difference. If you can see that someone is training, let's say 3 times a week, and then all of a sudden they start to train 2 times, and then maybe they start to train 1 time, then guess what's going to happen next? They're going to quit altogether. So if you track attendance, and most of the apps out there actually allows you to track attendance, it's just that you need to have the habit of, or telling a coach to do it, that they need to check on if people are training regularly. And if they are not, then you can actually reach out to them and get them to get back to the club and train. And the next one is basically also kind of tied with this one. If you just like keep track of people, how often they train, and reach back to them, show that you care about them and that you want them back to the club, then usually that works really good. Something that works also really good is that no matter if people are training regularly or not, you send every other week a message to them, just following up and seeing how everything is going with them. And then that usually makes a huge difference. Now, the last 2 things I wanted to touch is also that when people get into a club, the club basically just like offers training, which is great, but it's also kind of limited. Why would you just offer training? I mean, especially being a club, you would want to basically give what you are best at. So give the social aspect back to people, make sure that they not only are there for the training, but they are there also for the community, because that's also going to help you eventually get these people more involved in the club and helping out with different areas in the club, which is basically great for the club if you have more people helping around. So that's also something that a lot of clubs miss out. And then the last thing I would say is basically that they don't really think that the coaches need to also develop with the actual people. Maybe some of the clubs are run voluntarily, or maybe they have limited resources on coaches, and because, like I said before, they have too cheap pricing, they don't really have any money at the end of the day to invest in the coaches also. So their coaches become also better. So the participants get better throughout the time and the coaches get better throughout the time, then they develop at the same sequence, and then people really value that, seeing that their coach is becoming better also. So that's also something that I think makes a big difference when it comes to retention. Now, if we look what good retention can look like, it's basically, we have already talked about this, but from the start, having a big group, people really like that, they value that. It feels like they basically start, if you remember back in school, like you start a new class, when it's a lot of kids around, it's a fun experience. It's basically the same thing, no matter if it's kids or adults. People like to be in a big group and feel like they are part of something big. So that's the first step. Then instead of just giving solid experience, actually going ahead and going above and beyond so they can actually have the best experience they can have with your club. Fixing that is almost gonna double your retention, because ideally, if people got a really good experience with you within the first month, that means that they really like your club and they want to be there long term, right? So I'm talking about stuff like having a really good program, making sure that you have some kind of video material on the side, like courses that they can consume, make sure that you have some kind of accountability so that people actually feel seen and someone is actually taking care of them throughout the first month. Stuff like this is really good and makes a big difference. Now the next thing is the thing that we talked about, selling your sport. So within the first month, you ideally don't just want to like get people to learn your sport, but you also want to sell them on actually why your sport is the best sport to do, right? So this is something that a lot of clubs miss out, and it's something that makes a huge difference when it comes to retention, because if people only knew how good your sport was, they would actually stick around, right? But most of them just learn the basics, but they don't really know anything about the sport. So then they are like, oh, nice, now I did it, now I can do something else. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is basically just making them feel seen. So this has to do with everything that I said before, just like the communication, making sure that you actually have someone reaching out to them throughout the first month, so they actually can feel like I'm part of this club, people care about me here. That's a really, really big part of this whole equation. Now, when it comes to the conversion point, going from participant of a program that they are learning the sport to actual members, that's something that you actually have to do better than just sending a mail. So you want to actually reach out to people multiple times, make sure that they have all the information. You can even call them, just show that you really care about them and that you really would like to have them at your club. Even if it sounds like you are being too salesy, people actually like it. Like sometimes maybe people are like, it have happened so many times, like, I mean, when we run our programs, that people seem that they don't want to continue just because they haven't replied or they haven't signed up yet. And by the end of like the sign up window, they all of a sudden come back to us and they're like, oh my God, sorry, I've been so busy with work. Like, I really want to actually join. I just was on a trip with work just after the program was done, right? So just reaching out, and believe me or not, we had reached out to them like multiple times, and still they didn't get the information, right? So you probably need to reach out much more than you think, and in a much better way than just through mail, calling them, making sure that they got the information on all different ways so they actually continue. Now, when it comes to what you offer to these people, something that we have seen works really good for retention is basically offer a continuation program. This could be like a 6-month program, and you basically want to frame it as like, you have learned the basics. Now during the 6 months, you're going to learn everything about the sport, so you can basically decide if this is something you can go on for a longer time, right? You see the difference, saying like, oh, now you are a member, welcome to the club, you are just like us. Instead of this structure where you say like, oh, now you have learned the basics, now let's go for 6 more months so you can learn everything about this, so then you can make the decision. It's a much better way, and people actually really like to push decisions, so this is a great thing to do. Now, when it comes to pricing, just like I said before, having higher pricing helps a lot. It makes people feel committed, which is a great thing, and we have seen this time after time when we help the clubs. Just by raising the price a little bit, it makes a huge difference. When it comes to attendance, you just need to track it, nothing fancy, just make sure that people are training at least 2 times a week, otherwise they're gonna churn out. Then when it comes to communication, you want to keep it fun, you want to keep it exciting, and you just don't want to keep it through mail all the time. So you have to find a new way of doing it, like SMSs work really good, and just like more personal ways work really good. If you do it through mail, it feels like you are doing some kind of mass outreach, and people don't really like that. Then the thing that I mentioned earlier, you have to work on your strengths. You are a sports club, you are actually a club that is based on community, so it makes tons of sense to actually have events throughout the 6 months that the people are going through, and we have seen this make a huge difference. The events get people to get closer with each other, they become friends with old members, and they just become a part of the actual club. And then the last thing, just like I said before, the coaches need to get developed also, so there is not a mismatch there on quality of the coaches and the participants as they are getting better and better. Now, what can this actually look like when it comes to numbers? So I can show you real examples. These examples are from rowing clubs that we work mostly with. So as you can see here, what most rowing clubs are doing is basically bringing in 20 people throughout a small Learn to Row program. Then, because they are just like giving an okay experience to them, they are giving a solid program, but maybe not thinking about all the other aspects that we talked in this video, and also probably because they are just like reaching out at the end of the program and just sending out mails and saying like, hey, if you want to join, do it through this link, instead of just like actually reaching out to people, making sure to call them, follow up with them. They usually get around 5 to 12 people from these 20 initiative people after the first month to actually commit and become members. And then what happens, because of the things that I mentioned earlier on this video, that they get into a normal membership, it's usually quite cheap, so people don't really take it that serious. No one tracks their attendance, no one is actually keeping them accountable. It's only training, and probably the coaches maybe are not the greatest, maybe they are, but I mean, if you miss all the other stuff and just have good coaches, it's not going to be enough for people to actually stay there, right? So what happens usually after these first 6 months is that the clubs usually retain 0 to 5 people. And I know it sounds crazy, it's not a good number, but that's actually what happens, because like even the small changes that I said, if you make it right, it makes a huge difference. And that's exactly what we're going to go into now. So you can see here, when we run the programs, and I went in a small scale, usually we have even bigger programs. Our smallest programs is with 80 people, but just to have like the numbers quite similar to the other example, so it is more similar. So let's say that 60 people run through the program, significantly more people feel like this is something fun. You have a really good dialed in program, people are actually excited about the program, they get really good first experience, someone is keeping them accountable, and it's just like a great experience. What's going to happen, plus a really good conversion, is that you're going to be able to convert 30 to 40 people out of the 60 people. So usually 40 to 60%. That's usually what we convert We have clubs that have converted all the way almost to 80% of the people, but usually when that happens is because either the coaches were really good or the club wanted to actually give an affordable price, so everyone felt like this was a steal. But usually we say that you should aim for 40 to 60% of the people after the first month. So that's what you are seeing here. And then if you do everything right that I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the 6 months after that, then you should actually retain around 60 to 70% of the people that you had after the first month. So you're going to be left with 24 to 32 people. And as you can see, this means that you have basically 50% of what you got in from the get-go, which means that for every person you bring through the door, you know for a fact that after a year, after these first 6 months, you're going to have 50% of them staying at your club. Wouldn't that be great for your club? Wouldn't that be actually motivating? And wouldn't that actually mean a lot when it comes to finances also? If you knew that for every person I bring in, I'm going to retain half of them. And if we see on this other example here, if I take my pen and make it red, you get 20 people here, then you get like 5 to 12 of them to continue, and then only 0 to 5 of them continue, which basically is a huge time burner. Like you get all these people, you have the coaches, you do all the programs, like the time is the same here. You are basically putting the same time into these two different systems, right? But in this one, you are basically having to start from 0 every year because everyone have dropped out just because the systems weren't there. But in this modern system here, you basically don't start from 0, you start from having 50% of the people that joined last year being at your club. And these people can help out with tasks at your club, they can volunteer, they can help out actually bringing new people, and that's how you basically grow your club and you make sure that you have enough people next year to be able to accommodate even more people. So that's everything for this video. Hope you found it interesting. It was quite a long video, but this is basically like if someone came to me, if a club came to me and asked me like, what do I need to fix when it comes to retention? I would basically show them this video and tell them that this is basically everything you can fix in order to get better retention. So hope you found it valuable. Like I said earlier in this video, if you want to like work more closely with us when it comes to this stuff, you can do it for free. You can just press on the link below, get in touch with us, and we can talk more about this stuff and how we can help your club. Other than that, hope you got some value out of this. I will be seeing you on the next video.